Okay, our final speaker for tonight is an expert in travel medicine. He doesn't have a PowerPoint, he doesn't need a PowerPoint, and he has a lot of interesting information. And again, just a reminder about the guide to working abroad, and also that there will be food and drink afterwards. But before then, we'd like to welcome Dr. Peter Burke as the final speaker of the night. Thank you.
I thought 5 minutes is a bit too short to attempt a PowerPoint with 30 seconds of technical problems at the start, so I'll forego them. I've been involved for about 14 years now with medical students going on student electives, and longer if you include my own elective, which is actually to Pakistan. I'd like to reiterate that it is a fantastic opportunity. It's also, in my personal experience and also seeing the presenters at the Alan Charters Prize each year, one of the first opportunities you have to actually not feel useless. You can feel a little marginalised in teaching hospitals sometimes as a medical student and somewhat surplus to requirements. And it is, there is a real frisson of professional excitement that happens when you suddenly realise that this knowledge might be going somewhere. And so while those electives that involve lots of beaches and that sort of stuff may sound good, I would strongly encourage you to really seize the day and use it as an opportunity to actually grow. On the other hand, the thing that Dr. Clark and I have in common in presenting to you is all about, if you like, risk mitigation. So the first thing I'd like to say is that when you're choosing an elective, choose something that is somewhere in your comfort zone. Now, for some folk, I've certainly seen students that have done electives that even now, with 25 years, 28 years experience, I would actually feel a little intimidated doing as a single woman doing an elective in Mali, but I've certainly seen that done, and successfully. If lots of friends and family are saying to you, gee, do you really think that's a good idea? In my experience, they're probably right. I would probably rethink it. That'd be a broad idea. You're medical students. You're not lawyers, you're not accountants, and you're not engineers. And that actually influences the risk of what happens to you when you're there. One of the basic principles is that sick people go to doctors. You will actually willingly put yourself at the epicentre of unwellness in the community you're going to. And it's worth thinking about this. So when you're actually, when you've chosen an elective that's suitable for you, you then really do need to get some good advice as to how to mitigate that sort of risk. There are obviously certain infectious disease conditions that doctors are more exposed to. Meningococcal meningitis, HIV we've talked about, tuberculosis, and being aware of that is important, so that you don't just sort of go for A to Z generic advice. If you're going to Thailand, you need these 6 vaccines. So I'd encourage you to get good advice from someone who actually sort of appreciates that you're actually going to do a medical elective in the developing world. And part of that is to do with getting the right vaccinations. Part of it is to get good advice on mosquito-borne illness, accurate advice, which goes both ways, incidentally, so you don't end up on Lariam when you're going to Fiji. And then thirdly, I think having the means to take care of yourself in a remote location. I wouldn't always presume that the Impress cupboard is going to have really good stuff. There may not be some Cipro there for you, some azithromycin there for you, some standby Ryamit or malaria standby treatment. It may be worth checking out what's there, but I think part of your role is not to impose too much on the actual health facilities, given that they may already be stretched. So having standby antibiotics for the obvious things that come up are quite important. That is your own medical kit. So that's sort of the thrust of what I do. I'd recommend those of you that are going to higher risk destinations actually go to a travel clinic where you're going to actually get accurate advice. I do a little Thursday night clinic, which is really for students at Chelsea Village, next to Chelsea Pizza, I'll leave a few cards around there. But if you look at the advisory, my homework, the reason I haven't done a PowerPoint is that my homework is already in your handouts. So very broadly, there's a sketch of advice that would go in terms of vaccinations, common non-vaccine preventable things, and I've sort of done that according to broadly regions, so Africa and the Middle East, Asia, Central and South America, the Western Pacific and Papua New Guinea. So there's broad advice there, but my tip to you is that if you're going to higher risk destinations, get some advice which is right for you. And it may be that the type of elective you're doing will dictate risk a little bit there as well. So even with respect to, say, tuberculosis, it's not just the country you're going to, but what you're doing there. If you're doing a respiratory term, your risk is going to go up. If you're doing psychiatry, probably not so. That's sort of the main sort of thrust. What else do I normally say? I normally say a couple of jokes. I've forgotten them. It's a joke-free year. Better luck. Blah, blah, blah. I usually get a plug-in for the Alan Charters Prize. The Alan Charters Prize is my baby. I used to see so many medical students coming back with fantastic stories that I thought these deserve an airing. So the Alan Charters Prize is a chance to pick up a grand for presenting what I did on my holidays, really. But actually anticipating that by maybe getting some good visuals around a particular topic while you're away is a good idea. And for those that are still looking for inspiration, the Alan Charters Prize, no doubt as part of your new brief, Marion will be part of putting that together. It's usually in April or May, and it is really worth coming to that because you get some inspiration about what can be achieved. And each year they blow us away, medical students, in terms of how mature and knowledgeable they are nowadays. They used to be rubbish, but they're good now. That's all I've got. And I'll stick around for a wee while. If there's any quick questions, I'll answer. Okay. I'll leave a few little cards up the front here for the clinic.